Two straits, one war, zero American strategy. While Donald Trump was standing at a podium in Miami cracking jokes about renaming the Strait of Hormuz after himself, ballistic missiles were arcing through the night sky over Israel. Not from Iran, from Yemen. The Houthis have officially entered this war, and with that single volley, the entire architecture of this conflict fractured into something far more dangerous than anything Washington had planned for. This is not just a military story. It is your story, your gas bill, your mortgage, your retirement account, all of it connected to two narrow corridors of water that the most powerful military on earth apparently has no answer for. Think about it like this. Imagine you have a business rival. You have been squeezing them for months, bombing their factories, sanctioning their revenue, and the whole time they have a network of allies sitting quietly on the perimeter, armed, waiting. How many times do you escalate before that network activates? You thought you were dismantling them, but you were counting down a clock you could not see. Drop your answer in the comments. At what point does escalation stop being strategy and start being self-destruction? Let us rewind the clock. This did not start with Houthi missiles. It started with a decision to strike Iran's industrial backbone. 3 of Iran's largest steel plants, facilities responsible for roughly 70% of Iran's total steel output, valued at over $6 billion annually. That was not a military target. That was an economic decapitation attempt. Iran's foreign minister Araghchi made the calculation public immediately. Israel, acting in coordination with the United States, had struck steel factories, a power plant, and a civilian nuclear site. Then came the line that should have set off alarms in every situation room on the planet. Iran will exact a heavy price. That was not a threat. That was a countdown. The skies above Tehran, Isfahan, and Dezful lit up with U.S. and Israeli strikes. Iran answered across Gulf nations, Bahrain, the UAE, Kuwait. And while all of this unfolded, the Houthis were watching, waiting, calculating. They had already told the world their 3 conditions for activation. Continued escalation against Iran and allied groups was one of them. The steel plant strikes checked that box. And then the missiles flew from Yemen. Interception is not the point. Activation is the point. A proxy force just crossed a line it cannot uncross. And the implications are geometric. 3 receipts, 3 moves that tell you exactly where this is heading. Receipt number 1, the Houthi activation and the second choke point. The Houthis already proved during the Red Sea disruptions that they can shut down one of the most critical commercial waterways on the planet. The Strait of el-Mandeb is the southern gate to the Suez Canal. During that previous campaign, insurance rates exploded and ships rerouted around the entire continent of Africa. And the Houthis did that without officially being at war. Now they are officially at war. 2 choke points. Hormuz, where 25% of the world's oil exports flow, already under Iranian toll control. And Bab el-Mandeb, now under active Houthi threat. Roughly a third of the world's traded oil sits between those 2 straits. Nobody in Washington planned for both corridors going hot simultaneously. When your military command has an answer, it speaks. Right now, Washington is managing optics. Receipt number 2, the Riyadh strike and the casualty collapse. While Trump hosted Saudi business leaders in Miami, Iran struck a U.S. military base in Riyadh. 12 American soldiers injured, 2 seriously. The president was in the capital of the country hosting that base when it got hit. Not before, not after, while he was there. We are only now learning about a separate incident from the previous week where 14 additional personnel were injured and the information was withheld. Total injured American soldiers in this conflict has now exceeded 300. Given this administration's documented pattern of minimizing casualty reports, that figure is likely low. The head of Iran's parliament said it plainly. A country that cannot protect its own soldiers at its own bases cannot protect anyone else's soil. That message was not for CNN. It was for every Gulf state currently calculating whether the American security umbrella is an asset or a liability. Receipt number 3, the Hormuz toll system and Marco Rubio's surrender. Iran is not just controlling the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is operating it like a toll booth. Countries willing to negotiate bilaterally with Tehran pay a fee and their tankers pass. Thailand completed such a negotiation and has been moving tankers through. Countries allied with the United States do not move. An Expediency Council member told Iranian media they are setting up a business. His words, a business. And Marco Rubio told G7 leaders the Strait of Hormuz is not America's problem anymore. The country that projected naval dominance through that strait for decades just told its allies it has no answer. That is not burden sharing. That is abdication. If this analysis is connecting dots you have not seen assembled anywhere else, hit subscribe right now. This conflict is accelerating faster than any single outlet can track. Most governments, when attacked by a superpower, either capitulate or escalate recklessly. Iran did neither. Iran responded with force and a spreadsheet. Iran activated the Houthis at the precise moment of maximum strategic impact, converted the Strait of Hormuz into a negotiation instrument, launched strikes across multiple Gulf states simultaneously, and laid out non-negotiable terms that tell you exactly where it believes the leverage sits. Ballistic missiles, drone production, uranium enrichment, reparations, removal of American bases, a formal apology. Those are not the demands of a regime on its back foot. Those are the terms of a government that believes time is running in its direction. Meanwhile, Trump has been caught multiple times claiming productive conversations with Iran that Tehran publicly denies. He manipulated markets with fake deal talk. By Friday, markets had gone numb. You cannot jawbone your way out of a $114 barrel of oil. While soldiers are getting injured across the region, he is ripping apart the White House West Walkway to build golden archways, calling the Strait of Hormuz the Strait of Trump, attacking NATO while telling allies to solve the Strait crisis themselves. You do not fight a multi-front war with ego and construction projects. Here is what this means for your life. Oil at $114 per barrel and climbing. The S&P 500 at a 232-day low. 10-year Treasury yields surging toward 4.4%. Mortgage rates heading for levels that will freeze the housing market. Gasoline becoming unaffordable for families already stretched thin. And once energy supply chains reroute around two-block straits, they do not reroute back. Once countries make bilateral deals with Iran, those deals become dependencies. Once allies build independent security frameworks because Washington told them to handle it, those frameworks become permanent. The new routes become the new normal, and the old order does not reassemble just because someone signs a ceasefire. 3 scenarios. None restore the world that existed 2 weeks ago. Managed de-escalation. Back channels produce a framework. The Houthis stand down. The strait reopens under some international arrangement. But Iran's leverage has been demonstrated. The toll deals do not unwind. The structural damage is permanent even if the shooting stops. Regional realignment. Middle powers follow Thailand's lead. Bilateral deals multiply. Gulf states hedge aggressively. A new network forms around energy and security. The United States remains powerful but no longer the unquestioned axis. And in geopolitics, the difference between dominant and merely large is everything. Escalation spiral, Bab el-Mandeb closes, 2 choke points simultaneously, oil past $150. Military operations expand. Iran activates every proxy and every network. Markets crater. NATO fractures. This is the scenario the current trajectory with no diplomacy and no off-ramp points directly toward. Iran learned it can control a strait and charge tolls. The Houthis learned they can activate and strike at scale. Gulf states learned the U.S. will tell them to handle it themselves. And the American public is learning that a war they were told would be quick is none of those things. The strategist prepares for the worst case. The gambler assumes the luck holds. One side came in with a spreadsheet, the other came in with a podium and a joke about renaming a body of water. We are all living in the gap between those two approaches. Every time you fill your gas tank, every time you check your retirement account, that gap is not abstract. It is $114 a barrel and climbing. Did Iran outmaneuver the most powerful military on earth, or did Washington outmaneuver itself? Are the Houthis this a new front in this war or the front that ends it? And is there anyone in the White House with a plan that does not begin and end with a podium and a lie? Drop your answers in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe because the next chapter is coming fast. This story is not slowing down. Do not look away.